Republican candidates around the country are courting Mitt Romney's donors as we speak, and that's just one of the ripple effects of Romney deciding against a third try at the presidency. Joining me now around the table, Kevin Madden, who is a senior aide to Mitt Romney 2 times in both of his presidential campaigns, Washington Post chief correspondent Dan Balz, and Donna Brazile, the Democrat who, among other things, ran Al Gore's presidential campaign. Thank you, all of you. Just also want to put back up a poll that I showed to Governor Huckabee earlier in the show. A year out from Iowa, Scott Walker, top of the pack. Dan, you broke the story this week that Scott Walker started his pack to make his run. What do you make of the fact that he's at the top of the heap now?
Well, I have a slightly counterintuitive notion on this, which is obviously it's good for him. I think it's early for him to be at the top of the pack. I mean, I have always thought that he was somebody who would creep his way up and be a real factor in this race. He gave a very good speech in Iowa a week ago, and he clearly got a bump out of that. But to be at the top of that means he's now a target.
You're exactly right. And Kevin, I mean, you've done this before. It's nice to be on top, but you don't want to peak too early.
Right, and no, I did point out that Iowa is a particular opportunity for someone like Governor Walker to build a profile in that state with those voters and then ultimately build a national profile, one handshake at a time. But I didn't think it would happen this early. One of the big risks now is that the element of surprise is gone. We always usually see somewhere in the summer somebody go from 2% to top percent, and that's now gone. So he's going to get another level of scrutiny now. It'll be interesting to see whether or not his campaign this early on is prepared for that.
And Donna, go ahead.
No, it just goes to show that on the Republican side, the race is wide open. I mean, just a week ago when Scott Walker appeared, he seemed nervous, but you know what? The crowd reacted. They liked what he had to say. He's a fresh face. He's run 3 times over the last 4 years, 1 in a blue state. He is somebody who
Are you trying to talk him up because you think you can knock him down?
Well, I would like to knock down a few of them, but it's
as a Democrat,
it's just so many Republicans running right now, and this gives him an advantage to go out there, raise money, get to meet the activists. But you know what? I still believe that we're a long way from deciding which candidate from the establishment, from the group of rabble-rousers, because you know those are my favorite Republicans, the ones who would just like to stir the pots, and of course the cultural warriors.
Right.
Mike Huckabee being a leading contender in that category.
You mentioned the establishment. One member of the establishment will not be there, Mitt Romney. Now, obviously, was the big news this week. I want to read a quote from Dan, your story this weekend, because when he was deciding whether or not to run, he of course did a very Romney-esque thing. He gathered a lot of data, trying to figure out if it was really worth it. And here's what you wrote: during the deliberations, Romney and Bush, Jeb Bush, met once at Romney's Utah home on January 22nd. Romney arrived armed with a mountain of polling data that his team had collected, which seemed to shape his view of the race. Romney shared that information as a way of explaining his motivation to thinking about running again. So how do you think he went from that to just days later saying, oops, never mind?
It's very interesting. The information he got, which was polling data a donor of his from the past had commissioned. It showed him in very good shape at this point in a lot of states, up to 20 states, as I was told. But what he came to conclude, and in part because of the reaction he got after he announced his interest in running again, he concluded that by the time he got through another really tough, brutal Republican nomination battle, he might not be in the kind of shape to be able to take on, presumably, Hillary Clinton in the general election. And I think that, according to a couple of people who were quite close to him, shaped his ultimate decision about not running.
So that's his head. But what about his heart? I mean, Kevin, you know him. You spent so much time with him, both of his presidential campaigns. You know how he makes decisions. You even talked to him. Yeah. So enlighten us.
No, I think there was a genuine struggle between the head and the heart here. I think in his heart, he believes that he'd be a great president, and he's uniquely positioned to help the country given some of the challenges that we have. But there is also this other side to Mitt, which is the clinician, the data-driven guy. I think looking at the field, looking at the prospects of a very divisive primary, he recognized that having a Republican president come January 2017, that this is much larger than him, and that he wanted to avoid.
Which is,
that
by the way, hard for somebody who's
got
anybody who runs for president has got enough of an ego.
And not only that
they're the best person.
Yeah, it's ego, but also that inner circle around him, those that are closest to those of us who are closest to him, really also do believe he'd make a great president.
They do.
And felt a loyalty to that desire that he had. But ultimately, this was a decision, I think, that he made because it was much bigger than him and because he didn't want that divisive primary.
Yeah, and I will know. I would just say, Donna, I spoke to some of those people who are close to him, and some of them were surprised, and they were definitely bummed out. They were disappointed.
I'm sure, because look, he received 60 million votes in 2012, 202 electoral votes. Of course, he came up short. But the truth is that Mitt Romney represents something in the Republican Party that I think is missing from this current crop of candidates, although Jeb Bush is interesting. And that is, he's run a state, he had ideas that he believed would turn the economy around, although President Obama has scored a lot on that front. But I think at the end of the day, Mitt Romney took a look around him and said, you know what, I'm out of here.
Well, let me just ask you about somebody else that you have been thinking about, Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
There's a lot of debate over when she should get into the race. I want to read something from one of her fundraisers told the Associated Press. No one wants a complete coronation, but it's hard to see who a credible challenger will be. So what's the deal, Donna? Should she, I mean, where are you on this? Should she get in and sort of get her sea legs, or should she wait and avoid being out there too
she's
long?
casting a wide net, and I'm sure that for Vice President Biden and former Governor O'Malley and many others who are thinking about it, Jim Webb, the former Senator of Virginia, this is an opportunity for her to really figure out, is she ready? Does she want to run? Does she want to put her body through this?
But do you think she should get in sooner or later?
What's the rush? There's no X mark that she needs on the calendar. The Democratic Party hasn't even decided on a venue for the convention. So I think she should take her time, cast this wide net, figure out her approach this time. This is not 2012 nor 1996.
Dan, what are you hearing about Hillary Clinton?
Well, I'm hearing a couple of things. One is she is going to take some time. My guess is that we are going to see her out, if not as a formal candidate, we're going to see her out as a politician by mid-spring. I don't think she's going to wait entirely until summer. She may wait until summer to make a formal declaration of candidacy, but she's a politician at this point. I mean, the idea that she can avoid the notion that she's still, not a politician is fanciful. So she's in the arena in one form or another. She's taking her time to put together a team that she's comfortable with, that's different than she did the last time, one that perhaps will be less dysfunctional than the previous one. And as we all know, she's trying to figure out what that message is really going to be.
Kevin, you get a 10-second addition.
Well, look, at a certain point, what does all the... I get that the reason of wanting to stay back and stay above the fray, but at a certain point, it looks like reluctance, and voters don't like reluctant candidates.
She's a warrior. She is not reluctant.
She's a warrior who doesn't know her message yet.
Hold that thought. We will talk about it another time for sure. Thank you, Kevin, Donna, Dan. Best.